Tonight on CTV News, breaking down the budget.
If you're the average Canadian, you're looking at this budget, you're going to say, well, it doesn't change my life very much.
What's in the budget for you? And will the Prime Minister's government survive this significant political test? Also tonight, a gut-wrenching day in court. The final moments of Constable Rick O'Brien's life as the man accused of murdering him is on trial. And
these are fully electric fly-by-wire aircraft.
Flying into the future, a BC company tests a small plane that runs on electricity.
This is CTV News with Nafisa Kareem.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with a federal budget with a blockbuster deficit. The Liberal government tabling an ambitious fiscal plan today to help boost a Canadian economy that's been struggling amid a trade war with the U.S. Framed as an investment budget, Mark Carney's first federal budget as Prime Minister focuses mostly on big-ticket investment-driving items rather than spending geared toward individual Canadians. Now, the deficit will be billions of dollars higher than previously projected. A whopping $115 billion will be spent on infrastructure over the next 5 years, and there is funding for some projects in BC in there. Let's go live to our Legislative Bureau Chief, Rob Beckham in Victoria. Rob, for people hoping for some sort of direct cost of living relief, this budget is a letdown.
Well, that's right, Nafisa. Mark Carney and his finance minister had pledged that there would be something for everyone in this budget, but so far the reaction has been one of disappointment when it comes to regular Canadians and affordability.
Couldn't be prouder of my finance.
We're ready.
Touted as generational, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne tabled Prime Minister Mark Carney's first budget, focused on building Canada's economic growth in the face of U.S. trade winds.
To weather the storm of uncertainty, we will not lower our sails, Mr. Speaker. Quite the opposite. We will raise them to catch the winds of economic change.
Spending will see the deficit soar to a projected $78 billion this year. One of the biggest expenditures, defense, with $81.5 billion in spending over 5 years.
There's no articulation of where year by year that would take us as a share of GDP.
There is also big spending on infrastructure, including $51 billion over 10 years for a new Build Communities Strong Fund that targets some projects in BC. Funding for a Filipino cultural center in Metro Vancouver, the White Rock Pier, the Newton Athletic Park and recreation facilities in Surrey, and money for Victoria's Royal Athletic Park. As promised, there are some austerity measures. Ottawa plans to downsize the public service by 10%, up to 40,000 jobs in 3 years through cuts, attrition, and incentivized early retirement. Not a priority, according to a poll out today.
Canadians think a higher priority is dealing with cost of living than reducing the size of the federal government.
While many economists say the budget's aim is to create a better environment for business through measures including a so-called productivity superdeduction, experts say there's little help with affordability.
If you're the average Canadian, you're looking at this budget, you're going to say, well, it doesn't change my life very much.
Especially when, close to half the people in this province are struggling just to put food on the table, is some significant tax reform and the ability to be able to support wage growth in particular.
Carney's minority Liberals will need some opposition MPs to support the budget or abstain from voting. Otherwise, since it's a confidence vote, it will trigger an early election.
This is in the, if you like, the saber-rattling phase of budget negotiations in a minority government.
The prospect of a December election, not the stocking stuffer most seem to want.
I think this is concerning. However, I'm faithful that they will find a solution to it. I just don't think the country wants to go through another election this soon.
So, Rob, the countdown is on to a confidence vote.
Well, that's right. Nafisa, MPs now face a choice: vote and pass the bill or vote against it and trigger an election. The Conservatives have already called it an unaffordable measure here, so they say they're going to vote against it. The Bloc and Greens likely will as well, so it probably will come down to the NDP. And given they have an interim leader right now in Don Davies and challenges with fundraising, they probably will vote in support of it, or enough of them will abstain. But we'll find out in the next few weeks, later on this month, whether we'll be going to the polls sometime around Christmas. Nafisa.
All right, thank you, Rob. A new report from the Salvation Army suggests most Canadians think U.S. tariffs are directly affecting their pocketbooks.
The report shows a sharp rise in job insecurity and declining optimism about the future. Of course, as we know, so many Canadians are feeling that squeeze. The rising costs of food, groceries, housing, all of those things are really having an impact on people's physical and mental well-being. And so many who have in the past perhaps donated to the Salvation Army or are finding that they need to turn to the Salvation Army for support at this time of the year.
The online survey from Angus Reid Institute found 86% of respondents agree that tariffs are driving up the cost of everyday goods. Meanwhile, 79% of people think U.S. trade policies are having the biggest impact on low-income households. The Salvation Army's annual Canadian Poverty and Socioeconomic Analysis also found the percentage of Canadians who feel optimistic about their finances dropped to 46% this year from 51% last year. On the second day of the trial for the man accused of killing RCMP Constable Rick O'Brien, the court saw dramatic security video of the frantic moments after an exchange of gunfire in a Coquitlam condo. CTV's Ben Milger now on what the video shows and how people in the gallery reacted.
It was a difficult day in court for family and friends of Constable Rick O'Brien. During testimony, an investigating officer walked the court through 20 minutes of security video showing fellow officers trying to help their fallen colleague. O'Brien had been at the Coquitlam condo tower with 4 other officers to execute a drug warrant. O'Brien was the first through the door, and the court has heard he was shot almost immediately. Another officer was also injured in the exchange of gunfire. Nicholas Bellemare faces 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and weapons charges. Video played in court shows other RCMP officers with guns drawn riding the elevator to the 22nd floor where the shooting happened. When the door opens, some of the officers attend to O'Brien, who was motionless in the hallway. Eventually, they pull him into the elevator, take him down to the lobby, and pass him to waiting paramedics. Other officers then bring Bellemare, wearing only his underwear and handcuffs, into the elevator, through the parkade, and into the street. There is blood on his left forearm where another officer had shot him. Before the videos were played, lawyers warned the gallery they were graphic and possibly disturbing in case anybody wanted to leave. Everybody stayed. As they watched the videos, friends and family of Constable O'Brien wept softly and held each other for comfort. Bellemare sat motionless in the prisoner's dock. Ben Milger, CTV News, New Westminster.
A man has died at a protest camp outside the BC ostrich farm that's fighting a cull of its birds. RCMP were called to investigate the sudden death around 7 a.m. yesterday after the man was found unresponsive on the ground at Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood. Police started CPR but were unable to revive him. The man has been identified, but police are still working to notify his family before releasing his name. They say there's nothing to suggest the death was suspicious. Is there finally new hope for first-time home buyers in some of the country's biggest housing markets? Listings are up year over year in both Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, and homes are tending to sit for longer. Just ahead, the standoff between buyers and sellers and when it might end. But first, a look at downtown Vancouver. Can't tell if it's cloudy, but at least we can see the North Shore.
Yep, it's not too bad out there. We started off nice and bright earlier on this morning. Clouds have rolled in, so we're looking at mostly cloudy skies out there right now. Here's a look at temperatures across the lower mainland. 11 degrees at the harbor and in Abbotsford and in Chilliwack. A touch cooler in Surrey at 9. Cooler yet in Pitt Meadows at 6 degrees. As we head through the overnight, that's when the rain starts, and we'll see winds gusting to about 40 kilometers an hour, dropping down to a low of 7. Tomorrow will be wet and windy. We'll see periods of rain with winds gusting to about 50 kilometers an hour in the early morning hours, easing in the afternoon with a high of 12.
CTV Weather brought to you by Expedia Cruises. Make the most of your next vacation by booking with those who've been there. Visit expediacruises.ca.
And we also have wind warnings for the north coast of Vancouver Island. Those details coming up.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Anne. Home sales in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley remain well below seasonal norms, according to the latest figures. CTV's Martin McMahon reports many are wondering when the standoff between buyers and sellers will end.
The weather is cooling as we inch toward winter, but for the Lower Mainland's real estate industry, an extended sales freeze has been the norm for some time.
It's a little bit unusual. In October, we typically see a bit of an uptick in sales as a result of seasonal patterns. This year, just the uptick just isn't as large as we've seen in previous years.
While we look for the silver linings in there, it's important to note that we're still in a healthy buyer's market condition, and inventory is abundant.
Listings are up year over year, both in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, and homes are tending to sit for longer, especially if listed at a price perceived as too high.
So as inventory continues to go up, pricing tends to come down as sellers need to be more competitive, if you will, and more tight on pricing to differentiate themselves from the other inventory that's out there.
At the heart of the slowdown is the economic environment, with many concerned about the ongoing trade tension between Canada and the U.S.
There just seems to be a mood, if you will, in the market, a hesitation on the part of buyers and maybe even to some degree on the part of sellers about, the outlook. And it's a challenging environment.
There's still an air of uncertainty. What's the next step in our relations with our neighbors south of the border? How will that impact the economy, the jobs market, those kind of things? So it's a unique ecosystem, if you will.
The Bank of Canada did cut its benchmark interest rate last week. As for whether the central bank could help ease things further, Governor Tiff Macklem signaled more cuts are unlikely, at least for now. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
A man is dead after a late-night hit-and-run near the BC-Alberta border. RCMP say the victim was struck by this gray 2017 Toyota Tundra outside the A&W in Sparwood just before 10 p.m. Sunday night. Southeast District Major Crime Unit has taken over the investigation and is asking anyone with dashcam video or information to call its tip line. A woman is recovering in hospital today after being struck by a vehicle in Surrey. It happened just after 6 last night at King George Boulevard and 40th Avenue. Police say the driver stayed at the scene and is cooperating with the investigation. At this point, drugs and alcohol have been ruled out as factors. The woman was rushed to hospital in critical condition. Police say she is now stable, but her injuries are serious. Another pedestrian was struck in Richmond last night. It happened just after 8 p.m. near Westminster Highway and Gibbons Drive. According to BC Emergency Health Services, paramedics provided emergency medical treatment at the scene before taking one patient to hospital in serious condition. Now to concerns that belt tightening at City Hall is coming at the expense of women's safety. An office dedicated to equity has been closed, and now a Vancouver City Councillor wants the city to recommit to its work around issues of inclusion and gender diversity. CTV's Isabella Zavarisi has more.
The City of Vancouver's Equity Office launched in 2019 in an effort to advance reconciliation and inclusion for staff. Now it's closed as the city looks to tighten its belt.
This is happening in a broader context of regression and local governments moving backwards on gender equity and reconciliation.
One city councillor wants to make sure the work continues and is tabling a motion Wednesday for another city initiative, the Women's Equity Strategy.
Much of the Women's Equity Strategy is about how we're building safe spaces in the city for women,
such as transitional housing and shelter supports. Rebecca Bly also wants Vancouver to be a leader in addressing gender-based violence. She's proposing another motion calling for a citywide task force.
So that motion is really to respond to the current rise in public safety, where women and gender diverse folks are involved.
Since August of last year, 34 women have been killed in BC as a result of intimate partner violence.
Several of them are residents of Vancouver who are represented by decision makers in City Hall, and the decision makers in City Hall have the power to prevent those deaths from happening again if they choose to.
The calls come as November marks a month of mourning for those who have lost loved ones to domestic violence.
If we build a city where women and gender diverse folks feel safe, we build a city where everybody feels safe.
Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
Well, they don't take up any space or use any paper, but it turns out ebooks are driving up costs for libraries. We'll show you why they're so expensive and how some local librarians are pleading with politicians for more funding. And later, airport inferno. A cargo plane loaded with fuel crashes into an airport shortly after takeoff and erupts into a ball of fire. We'll have the latest on the casualties as CTV News continues. Stay with us.
Tonight. When did you first discover that you had this?
When I was 16 years old.
He spent his entire life suffering in silence.
I had to go grab the coffee, almost third-degree burns on your arm.
Until a chance encounter on the job.
She immediately looked at me and said,
I can fix that.
How this award-winning cameraman got a second shot.
I wonder, what else would I do? What else would I do?
Tonight on CTV National News and at ctvnews.ca.
One of Canada's largest meetings of provincial and First Nations leaders is underway in Vancouver. The 10th BC Cabinet and First Nations Leaders Gathering kicked off at the Convention Centre this morning.
1,300 people are here. There will be 1,200 meetings over the course of the event. And nations have come from all over the province to gather here to meet with ministers, with MLAs.
More than 200 First Nations are represented at the gathering. Over the course of 2 days, leaders will meet to discuss a variety of topics, including the province's role in upholding and advancing Indigenous titles and rights and combating racism. We're hearing tonight from a First Nations chief on the controversial court decision that granted Cowichan Tribe's Aboriginal title over 750 acres of land in Richmond, which includes private property. CTV's Kevin Chirac is following this in the Breaking News Center. Kevin, this story is on the minds of many anxious home and business owners.
Yeah, that's right, Nafisa. And today was an opportunity to hear from both the Premier and First Nations leaders at the BC Cabinet and First Nations Leaders Gathering. Shauna Thomas, Hereditary Chief of the Layaxon First Nation on Vancouver Island, gave her take on the court's decision.
This decision has really highlighted, I hope, for Canada and British Columbia, the need to invigorate the BC treaty process and the need to advance that process to conclude more agreements, because that is how we get certainty. That is how First Nations get constitutional protection.
Thomas reiterated she believes the Cowichan tribes have no intention of displacing any private home or business owners. The Premier was once again asked about the case and said the land was unfairly taken from the Cowichan tribes in the past, but the government also needs to ensure clarity over fee simple ownership for those impacted in Richmond.
We have obligations both, I believe, to the Cowichan people about the injustice that was done to them, and also to private property owners in the province to provide clarity to them. We believe that the judge made some very serious errors in relation to the private property owners in Richmond.
The provincial government, along with the City of Richmond and Musqueam First Nation, are appealing the court's decision. The Cowichan tribes are also appealing, calling for more Aboriginal title in the area. The legal battle is expected to take several more years. Nafisa.
Thank you, Kevin. Librarians across BC are sounding the alarm over the need for more funding from the province to stay afloat. As CTV's Yasmin Gandam reports, the financial challenges are coming from a recent rise in people borrowing ebooks.
Digital versions of books like these have been at libraries for more than 15 years, but demand has never been higher.
We saw digital circulation actually outpace physical circulation for the first time.
That increased 16% from 2023 to 2024, according to VPL, with physical copies dropping just under 4% for the same period.
Clearly, it's popular, it's appealing, but the challenge with digital is it costs a lot more than print.
The cost double or more than that of print ones because of licensing agreements with publishers. Libraries also pay for book access, either by a set time limit or by the number of downloads.
It really is difficult for us to build the kind of broad and deep collections we would like because of the cost.
Now the BC Library Association is advocating for new government policies on the issue, as libraries are spending a significant portion of their budgets on digital content.
We're starting to reach out to different levels of government to talk about what legislative solutions there might be, because at the end of the day, this is public service. This is public money.
More than 90% of library funding comes from local governments, and librarians are worried without more money, they can't keep up with the demand.
enough funding to continue to support communities in their times of need, and to make sure they have what they need to succeed.
In September, the Union of BC Municipalities passed a resolution calling on the province to increase library funding from $14 million to $30 million.
At the end of the convention, when Premier Eby was asked to speak about it, he acknowledged that libraries are important, but said that there is no new provincial funding coming.
The province acknowledges the pressures libraries face and tells CTV News that it provided a $45 million enhancement grant 2 years ago. But with added challenges and costs, that one-time funding is quickly running out.
Everyone keeps saying that libraries are valued, but we really need someone to start paying for them.
Yasmin Gandham, CTV News, Vancouver.
Squamish kids are chasing their hockey dreams, but there's just one problem. There's nowhere to play. That story's coming up, but first, hockey heist.
It's pretty upsetting. I don't know why they would do that.
Heartless thieves make off with thousands of dollars worth of hockey gear from a BC team dedicated to empowering athletes with disabilities. How you can help when CTV News continues. Stay with us. Breaking news from Louisville, Kentucky, where a UPS cargo plane crashed on takeoff, igniting a huge fire at the airport. UPS says 3 crew members were on board at the time. The state governor says at least 3 people have been killed and 11 others injured. The community of Squamish is rapidly expanding, and so is the demand to play hockey. But there's one big problem. There's no ice. CTV's Craig Krause met with players and families at Rogers Arena last night after the Canucks opened their doors.
Okay. Canucks owner Francesco Aquilini and staff opening the doors to Squamish minor hockey, providing more than just an experience.
The news traveled fast that Squamish is having some challenges with their ice rink.
The only community rink plagued by maintenance followed by job action.
Very disappointing. I'm not very happy about it. It's annoying that we have to drive all the way to the city and back.
Families forced to travel more than 100 kilometers to get ice time for their kids.
We've been traveling to Langley, Richmond, Whistler, all over the place to try to find ice.
Squamish minor hockey, along with BC Hockey, calling on the local government to step up and build a new rink, as some parents consider moving.
It's very unfortunate that the City Council does not seem to be hearing us.
So CTV News went to the source and asked the mayor directly, what's it going to take to get an extra ice sheet in Squamish?
End of the day, dollars.
Mayor Herford explained that the fire halls and the public works building were also identified as being over capacity and end of life, needing upgrades. Priorities being checked off the list before recreation.
But even then, paying for those facility investments we've already made is driving a rather substantial tax increase here in the District of Squamish to the tune of 13%.
He estimates it would cost tens of millions of dollars for a community of 30,000 people.
We really need other orders of government to step up and partner with us to make these investments happen.
With no timeline, demand to play hockey in Squamish is only growing.
We are over 300 members, and we cannot accept any more.
Potentially sidelining kids for a full season until a solution can be found.
Please make some ice so we can play.
Craig Crow, CTV News, Vancouver.
A Greater Victoria hockey club that empowers players with developmental disabilities is now facing a big setback after thousands of dollars worth of their gear was stolen. Police say the theft happened at the Wanda Fuca Recreation Center in Colwood sometime between September 28th and October 19th. About $3,500 in equipment was taken from a storage room, including ice skates, team jackets, and goalie gear. Well, that gear belongs to the South Island Ravens, an inclusive team that's been helping players of all abilities experience the sport since 2012.
Basically, the kids that don't fit into mainstream hockey, you know, a lot of kids on the autism spectrum can fit into mainstream hockey younger, but as things get faster and stuff, they get left behind, and it's not really fair. So we give them a place to come, have fun, play hockey.
The club says losing the gear will make it harder to get players on the ice, but they're hoping all the community support they've received will help them replace what was lost. RCMP are investigating the theft. A charity that provides free hockey programs for youth who are new to Canada or facing barriers has expanded to Langley.
This program in Langley will have 22 girls, although we know there's a few girls that are waiting on the sidelines to join. So, we'll try and push that up to 30.
The girls are getting a chance to play thanks to the Hockey for Youth Foundation. The Ontario-based charity is celebrating its 10th season by launching its 5th program in BC. The goal is to break down financial and cultural barriers to hockey, a sport which the foundation estimates costs around $4,000 a year for just one child to play. I'll forget full-size chocolate bars coming up, how a kid in Winnipeg ended up with a priceless treasure in their candy bag. Plus, can artificial intelligence detect heart failure?
We are looking to streamline the diagnosis of heart failure.
How researchers in Vancouver are using AI to diagnose heart failure earlier and help save lives, especially in smaller communities. It's not every day that Mounties get called to rescue a moose, but it happened to Clinton RCMP last week after a calf got trapped behind a fence. Mounties say they teamed up with the BC Conservation Officers Service to guide the moose back to freedom. A new research project at Vancouver General Hospital is using artificial intelligence to change how doctors detect heart failure. The technology could speed up diagnoses and make life-saving tools more accessible, even in smaller communities. CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports.
We're just going to be taking pictures here.
Doctors say heart failure is becoming more and more common. That's why this team of researchers is looking to use technology to help potentially catch it before it's too late.
We are looking to find a way to streamline the diagnosis of heart failure.
Dr. Christina Luong, a cardiologist and co-director of the VGH UBC Artificial Intelligence Echo Core Lab, is leading the study. It's funded in part by the VGH Millionaire Lottery. The team is using AI to analyze heart ultrasound images, not only aiming to speed up diagnosis, but also to improve them.
It's really important to kind of determine why a patient has heart failure by one of these few mechanisms, so that you can pick the right treatment for them, because the treatments can be dramatically different.
AI is used to help automatically interpret the images from ultrasounds or echoes by developing algorithms that can automate measurements and improve precision, even letting non-experts use portable handheld devices to check heart function in the field. It's hoped this could serve as a beneficial tool, especially in remote communities with fewer resources.
Technologies like AI in the context here are being used as a co-pilot for the decision-making process of a physician. They're support, not a replacement.
The project moves into its pilot phase next year, when the technology will be tested in real clinical settings. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
A Winnipeg mother made a surprising discovery when she sorted through her kids' Halloween candy.
We were sorting the candy, dumped it all out on the living room floor, and I saw this wedding ring.
That's right, a men's gold wedding band was found in the pile of treats. After she posted the discovery online, someone reached out saying they might know the owner. The ring has since been returned. Wow. I'm also hoping the person who owns it is making an appointment to have it resized.
Yes, because
it probably fell off their finger in the candy bowl, you know?
Yeah. Lucky kid, though. He's like, what is this? Nice gold ring for me. But I bet they just wanted the sweets anyways.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our forecast. Hope you enjoyed today, because change is coming as we head through the overnight hours, all thanks to this low pressure system offshore. That is going to bring in some rain for along the coast and strong winds for the northern tip of Vancouver Island from the southeast at 90 kilometers an hour, gusting to 110 through the overnight into tomorrow morning. So here's a look at our weather tracker right now. We're seeing overcast skies across the lower mainland. Rain as we head through the overnight into tomorrow morning for your early morning commute, especially for the northern sections. It stays dry. We're going to see periods of rain throughout the day, as you can see, heavy at times, but it won't be a complete washout all day long. We'll see anywhere between 50 millimeters of rain for Squamish, 22 for North Vancouver, 17 for Vancouver, a little less along the Fraser Valley, 11 for Abbotsford, and 12 for Chilliwack. You'll see wet and windy conditions as well. well for the southern interior. Some mixing possible. Your provincial forecast at the bottom of your screen. 12 degrees for Port Hardy. You'll see winds, as mentioned earlier, with gusting to about 110 kilometers an hour. 12 degrees for Campbell River and Comox. You'll see winds upwards of 80 kilometers an hour for the South Island. Stormy for Tofino as well. You'll see upwards of 30 millimeters of rain with winds gusting to about 80. It'll be soggy for Port Alberni, 12 degrees. Winds upwards of 80 kilometers an hour for Nanaimo. A warm 13 degrees. Showers for the Southern Gulf Islands and Victoria. For the Sunshine Coast, you'll see wet and windy conditions. Winds gusting about 70 kilometers an hour. Same story up the Sea to Sky Highway for Squamish. Wet for Whistler at 6 degrees. And for us across the lower mainland, near the water, we'll see winds gust to about 50 kilometers an hour. Temperatures between 12 and 13 degrees. And it continues. Steady rain on Thursday at 12 into Friday morning before it dries up. 11 degrees. We'll start off the weekend dry with some mostly cloudy skies. And then on Sunday, we'll start off cloudy. Rain returns in the afternoon, continuing into Monday before it dries up, with showers expected on Tuesday and a high of 11. CTV weather brought to you by Expedia Cruises for air, land, and sea vacations. So a little bit of everything as we head into the next few days. But yes, this is November, and we love it.
We got a weather buffet. Thanks, Sam.
You're welcome.
Well, after the break, new technology takes flight. We'll show you a futuristic aircraft that's all electric. How this aviation first could be a peek into the future of flying and might make it cheaper, too. Taking a look at today's markets, the Canadian dollar dropped, trading for 70 cents to the American dollar. Oil down 49 cents, closing the day at $60.56 U.S. a barrel. Gold lost $53.50 on the day. The TSX and Dow Jones both ended the day lower, down 497 points and 251 points. An online trading platform has now been given approval to launch a new bank in this country. Quest Trade Financial Group says it received approval to open Quest Bank. The approval was years in the making, with the company first applying for a bank license in 2019. Quest Bank will be a fully fledged domestic bank in the same class as Canada's 6 existing banks. A company that's working with Helijet to bring fully electric aircraft to this market showed off its new plug-in plane at YVR today. And we were there to watch it take off for the first time in Western Canada. CTV's Shannon Patterson has more.
If this small plane looks futuristic, that's because it is. It runs on electricity.
We are so thrilled to be here today in Vancouver, showcasing the future of aviation and advanced air mobility.
Helijet invited Vermont-based aviation company Beta Technologies to YVR to test fly its new fixed-wing electric plane.
And we're excited to host Beta as they introduce this aircraft throughout the world, throughout Canada.
The plane can be configured for passengers or cargo, and Beta says it will be cheaper to buy and operate than traditional small aircraft.
It not only is designed to have the fuel efficiency of battery technology versus traditional fossil fuel sources, but it also has less components on board the aircraft. The maintenance was optimized on this aircraft.
Air medical, organ transplant, radio tracer isotopes that we move today, with a much lower cost base that this aircraft is advertising and proposing, we can transition into that aircraft and bring the cost down to the end user.
Helijet has an agreement to buy a vertical lift version of this electric aircraft, and it's also looking into how the fixed wing could fit into its fleet.
So imagine boarding a flight from Abbotsford Airport or Langley Airport or Pitt Meadows. We'll pick you up from that site, take you into downtown Vancouver in 12 minutes, connect you onto a Sikorsky aircraft that's going to downtown Victoria. So your whole elapsed time is about 50 minutes.
Beta Technology still needs FAA approval to fly this plane commercially, and the vertical lift version is years away from coming to market. Airports would also need to build out charging stations.
There's, of course, a lot of challenges when you're bringing a new and novel technology to market.
But the company is confident this is the future. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Richmond.
Why a Calgary man is heading back to work after a $36 million lotto win. That's still ahead tonight. Plus, football friends. Adam finds out how tossing a football started a friendship and maintained it for 50 years. Coming up on the Sawatsky sign-off. Right now, here's a preview of your morning, Vancouver.
What is the next health crisis we should be prepared for? Wednesday on Your Morning Vancouver, from a rise in avian flu to a rise in misinformation. We'll sit down with a top BC infectious disease expert with a look at the threats of the future. And breaking down the federal budget, what are the implications for the future of the Mark Carney government? We'll see you in the morning.
Chirac is standing next to me, bobbing his head up and down. AC/DC is coming back to Vancouver next year. The band has added 21 new dates to its Power Up World Tour, which originally had just one Canadian stop, and that show happened at BC Place back in April. Well, now the tour is returning to the stadium on August 13th and also stopping in Toronto, Edmonton, and Montreal. Tickets go on sale Friday. Well, this year's Grey Cup game is officially sold out. The CFL's championship game will be played November 16th in Winnipeg. Most of the festival events leading up to the game, including the CFL Awards, are also at capacity. The participants in the 112th Grey Cup will be decided Saturday when Hamilton hosts Montreal in the East Division Final, and Saskatchewan welcomes BC for the West Division Final. Go Lions. A curling team from Calgary is celebrating a rare and perfect score. The women of Team Saunders just shot an 8-ender. Now, the odds of getting one is 1 in 120,000. And just for context, the odds of getting a hole-in-one is 1 in 12,000. Now, for one teammate, this wasn't even her first 8-ender. She scored her first one back in 1992 and her second 33 years later, right after undergoing surgery for a pacemaker.
This was my first day back curling. No warm-up, no anything. I got on the ice, and the curling gods were with me.
Well, she was feeling so lucky. She went out and bought a lotto ticket, but I guess the lotto ticket gods weren't with her because, unfortunately, she did not win. However, one lucky Albertan is $36 million richer. The business owner was presented with a check today, and he says he has no idea what he plans to do with the money, but vows to remain humble and invest wisely. CTV's Tyson Fedor reports.
I won the Lotto 649.
A statement many Canadians wish they could make, and Stacey Boyce can. $36 million, all in exchange for his $19 purchase of a Quick Pick Lotto 649 gold ball ticket that he bought in October.
I was just running in town to grab some more propane and check my ticket, and didn't really believe it at first.
It was in Hinton, Alberta, where the winning ticket was purchased last month.
First, I read it wrong. I thought it was $360,000. I don't think it's quite set in yet, but I'm planning on going back to work right after this.
Boyce owns a logging truck business. He says the money will help purchase some new trucks for it as he looks to expand it. But he says he has no plans for most of the money quite yet, other than buying a boat next spring and fulfilling his daughter's wish of getting a pony.
Hopefully we can keep things pretty humble and the same that we've been doing.
Albertans have won big before when it comes to lottery tickets.
We always have that chagrin of, hey, it's always won in Ontario. Actually, Alberta does very well for itself, and Calgary as a city does well too.
The winning number that Boyce had was 303-670-74-01. The ball drawn was gold, attached to it $36 million.
When you say you won $36 million, nobody believes you.
For Boyce, financial experts suggest being patient with the money.
Just take a breath and take what we call a bit of a cooling off period. So if you can, upwards of 6 months, try not to make any major life decisions.
Decisions such as quitting your job or buying a bigger house.
We'll need to build the right team around you. I'd highly recommend a quality financial planner, an accountant to make sure you're structured right from a tax perspective, and then a state lawyer because you'll have to get some wills done as well.
And if you want to be just like Boyce and Canada's next millionaire, you can.
Yeah, you got to keep buying the tickets.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Wonder if he gets to keep that jacket. I'll just call him Sir David. One of the world's most celebrated soccer players was knighted today. David Beckham was recognized for his contribution to sport and charitable causes during a ceremony at Windsor Castle. The former England captain retired in 2013. He partnered with UNICEF for 2 decades and campaigned with a charity working to eradicate malaria. After today's ceremony, Beckham said he cried when he first found out he was being awarded the knighthood.
You know, being an East London boy, you know, growing up in Leytonstone, moving to Manchester and now stood here at Windsor Castle with His Majesty the King giving me a knighthood is something that I could never have imagined happening to me.
Beckham says this is without a doubt his proudest moment. He has long expressed admiration for the royal family, describing himself as a huge royalist. Now, that is a very prestigious title. Yeah. I think Posh Spice gets to call herself Lady Beckham.
Ooh, yeah. My lady.
But there's another title we have to talk about. Well before David Beckham was knighted, he was once voted People's Magazine's sexiest man alive, and this year's honor has gone to another UK star. Jonathan Bailey has been named 2025's Sexiest Man Alive 10 years after David Beckham got that title. Bailey's selection was announced last night on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. The 37-year-old is best known for his roles on Netflix's Bridgerton as well as Wicked. Bailey called it the honor of a lifetime as well as completely absurd. I appreciate that. Past winners include Vancouver's own Ryan Reynolds, Chris Hemsworth, Blake Shelton, Paul Rudd, and Brad Pitt. He was very good in Wicked. I do have my tickets already for the sequel.
Was he the prince?
He was the prince.
Okay, I remember.
And I think he's also in Jurassic World, Park, something.
Yes, he was in the last Jurassic something.
There's been a few.
All right, Kevin, what are you working on for the 11:30 broadcast?
Well, Nafis, last month we learned the city of Vancouver is directing the park board to slash its budget by $15 million next year. Tonight, the park board is striking back. A motion is being presented at tonight's meeting saying that cutting $15 million would result in job losses, reduced service hours, impacting community centers and the cleanliness of parks around the city. We'll hear from the park board commissioner presenting the motion tonight. And the Lower Mainland's Jamaican community is rallying support for victims on the island impacted by Hurricane Melissa. Those stories and all your late breaking news coming up at 11:30.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kevin.
You bet.
Well, finally, the story of 2 11-year-olds, a football, and a friendship that stood the test of time. Adam finds out how one toss helped childhood friends pick up right where they left off in a Vancouver park on tonight's Sawatsky Sign-Off.
This is a story that began more than half a century ago.
We're just tossing the ball like we've been doing since we probably about 11 years old.
Back in grade 5, when Chris with the hat and David without realized they had a couple things in common.
Music, football. What else is there?
When they weren't listening to the Beatles or passing the pigskin, Chris and David were making questionable choices.
You know, we were both sent to the back of the class. You know, if there was something stupid, we'd probably do it.
Well, David and Chris remained friends throughout high school and became roommates after, before they found themselves on opposite sides of the world.
Relationships, jobs, stuff like that.
Until 40 years later, Chris called David out of the blue, asked if he wanted to toss the ball, and effortlessly picked up where they left off.
Well, because he's got great taste in friendships.
That's the secret to the friendship?
Yeah.
After doing this almost daily since, what began as a way for old friends to simply have fun...
Nothing better than football.
...has evolved into something more philosophical.
So just a way to really just get back to my body knows more than my brain. Because it's really hard to listen to your unconscious or be aware of it until you shut up.
So they silently throw the ball back and forth, engaging in a conversation unhindered by words.
It's exhilarating. It's good. It feels good.
Because what could feel better than knowing no matter how far you and your friend find yourselves apart, you'll always know how to bring yourselves back together. Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Vancouver.
The power of sport.
It's so true, though. When you throw a ball, baseball, whatever, it's just easy. You know, it's very easy.
It looked meditative to me.
It is.
They're not talking, they're just throwing and catching.
And the perfect day to do it, too, because it was spectacular today. Warm temperatures, sunshine. So let's take a look at our scenic snapshot tonight, because fall is in full swing at Mill Lake and Abbotsford. Look at that gorgeous shot, all the colorful trees. Thanks, Tina, for sending this one in, and we want to see your scenic snapshot as well. So email us at scenicsnapshot@ctv.ca.
I'm getting Monet painting from that, right?
Big time.
Water lilies.
Great.
Gorgeous.
All right, well, enjoy it while it lasts. You said there is change in the air.
Sure is.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in at 11:30 and catch Kevin. And thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Good night.
See you later.